Hey everyone, Emma here, also known as eightvinyllow, bringing you all another video. Today's video is going to be another vinyl finds video showcasing some of the releases and albums that I've picked up from towards the end of record store day, so late April into now early June. It's crazy to even think about the fact that it's June. I don't know where this year's going. I can't believe that it's summer already. I just wrapped up my second year of teaching ever, which has been great. Also has taken up so much time, which is why I've been absent recently, and I don't mean to be, but now that that's kind of done and summer is here, I'm hoping that I have a little bit more time to not only make videos, but to watch new videos as well. But I have been poking around, and there have been so many amazing new channels coming out and new additions to the vinyl community, one of which I want to give a shout out in this video. So go ahead and check them out, go give them a sub, go watch some of their videos and give them some love if you have not already. I'm going to link them down below. There's a new channel called So I Married a Record Collector. It is a couple, Heidi Lee and John, also goes by JT I believe, and they've been making videos for about a month or so, doing a fantastic job, introductory videos, record collection videos, recent vinyl pickups they've been working on. So go ahead, give them some love, go give them a sub, check out their channel. Very knowledgeable about music and just really fun to watch and kind of see them bounce back and forth. So I Married a Record Collector. Go check out their channel, link down below. We're gonna kick off with a box set. We gotta kick off with a bang in these videos, right? We gotta kick off with something good. All of these are good, but box sets are fun. Last video showed you my record store day pickups, talked about the Bleeding Hearts Bob Stinson release, talked about the Live Replacements release from April's record store day, and I also mentioned how I've been really digging into their discography. Well, it's time to add studio albums into the collection as I'm going through this exploration, and what better way to kick off a studio album building my collection discography of this band. I don't know if that made sense, but you know where I'm getting. What better way to do that and start building up this band's discography in my collection? There we go. That's what I meant to say. Than to do it with a box set. So I did pick up, this is the Replacements, the Twin Tone Years Records box set. This is a limited edition, numbered box set that Rhino put out a handful of years ago. Of course, early Replacements material and releases in this box set. They also have a Sire Albums box set that they put out as well. That is on my want list. I'm hoping to get it. Hoping to get it in the next few months though, because I do really enjoy the Sire albums as well, and I want them in the collection. So I might start to kind of pick them out individually. But now that I started with the box set, it just kind of feels right to continue. You know what I'm saying? That's like a vinyl community, vinyl collecting OCD thing. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments below if that happens to you. Like if you start out with a box set or something, or whatever it is, particular releases, and they like continue it, like you need to get that particular thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I'm talking about? I don't know. It's my OCD. Okay, we all have our own little quirks when it comes to record collecting, but I'm sure some of you out there are kind of the same way. So limited out of 8,000, mine is 1,598, so fairly low number in terms of, you know, the amount that they released. I don't really care about numbers, but figured I would share anyway. I got an amazing deal on this, which is actually why I ended up going the box set route. Long story short, I was on Discogs. I was looking up replacement albums. This box set came up. I was going to put it in my want list, but then realized a sealed copy, brand new, was on sale, shipped and everything for $50. So I was not going to pass that up. Fantastic deal. It was like this guy was moving out of the country and getting rid of a bunch of stuff. He had a bunch of things for sale that were a great deal. Nothing else that really caught my eye, but I did get this box set, again, sealed, brand new, $50 shipped. Can't beat it. So that's why I kind of went this route to begin with, but now I need the Sire box. All right, so first 4 studio albums, like I said, from this band, kind of the Replacements at their most raw and energetic in a way, and what's the word I'm looking for? Just heavy, I guess. Kicking off with the debut, 1981, Sorry Ma, Forgot to Take Out the Trash. Then we get into Stink, Hootenanny. And of course, 1984, the album that I was most familiar with before starting this exploration into the replacements. One of the best albums of the 80s, hands down, Let It Be. Okay, next album that I picked up, Sugar. Gotta keep going with my Bob Mould kick. This is their second studio album and last studio album. I believe they only released a couple. File under Easy Listening. Finally added this to the collection. Been meaning to pick this up over the last few months. First introduced to Bob Mould in general through Sugar. Legendary Jim sent me a VCLT package with that EP, Beaster, and Copper Blue release mix, whatever double LP particular release it was, and I was absolutely blown away. And then I knew a little bit about like Bob Mould and his solo work because of John at the Digital Gramophone. So all of these things that I had heard in the VC started to kind of come together, and I started to piece together Husker Du a little bit, and I knew a little bit about Husker Du. Didn't know Bob Mould's solo stuff that well. I've heard of Sugar but hadn't listened to it. So all these things started to piece together. And then my addiction, I was absolutely locked in. I was hooked. When I went to go see Bob Mould's solo electric tour back in October, I had the chance to meet Bob. So nice, so gracious, signed stuff. Ended up sending a signed album as a thank you to John at the Digital Gramophone for kind of getting me into. Actually, he was the one that pushed me to go to that concert. I think he recommended that I would go because I had mentioned that he was coming here or something. So besides the point, finally have Sugar, File under Easy Listening, continuing my Bob Mould journey. I still need New Day Rising, and then of course the number one Bob Mould grail for me right now is Workbook. So hopefully I will be able to add that in the collection and a handful of other things in the near future. But this was a must, remaster, reissue, and this was a kind of an easy find. I just got this online. Okay, next album, speaking of second studio albums, this is the second studio albums from the Feelies, and this is their album Good Earth. The Feelies, probably best known and most known for their debut album Crazy Rhythms, that kind of blue cover with the faces on it. And so this is their second studio album. What's unique about this album, a couple things that make this particularly unique. First thing, this was released 6 years after Crazy Rhythms. So if you really think about it, especially, you know, different bands releasing material in the 80s and just bands in general, it's hard to believe 6 years go by and then they come out with an album that's like equally as good as their first one. I can't off the top of my head think of like another band that over that like a 5-6 year period released an album as good as the one before. I'm sure there's a handful. So if you have an idea, let me know down below. That'd be like an interesting video idea or just discussion idea. There's probably so many, but I can't think of them off the top of my head that take that kind of hiatus and come back just as good, but not like too long. Anyway, second studio album. So I believe this is a 1986, 6 years after Crazy Rhythms. It's also unique because it sounds completely different from Crazy Rhythms. Yes, it has that Feelies-esque percussion sound that we love so much from Crazy Rhythms, but it's also in its own right and so amazingly so its own unique thing. It has a softer feel to it, a softer tone, more folky, more mellow. I can see myself, honestly, as much as I love Crazy Rhythms, and I'm not knocking down Crazy Rhythms at all. Again, in my opinion, both equally impressive releases, just different. I can see myself listening to this more than I can Crazy Rhythms, and that just might be because I'm newer to this album, but this is just more like my draw, my sound that I can see myself just listening to more, I guess. This is like critically acclaimed, this is like the quote, essential road trip album. It just has that feel good sound to it. You can't help but feel good listening to this. I had not heard this album before I got this on vinyl. I'm not going to get too deep into this story. Long story short, I've known Crazy Rhythms. I've had it for years in my collection. I just listened to it about a couple weeks ago, had a couple cold beverages, and then a few days later this showed up at my door. It's crazy how that works. I don't know what happened. but I'm happy that that happened because I really enjoyed this album. So good. Next album that I picked up, this is the Groundhogs, Hogwash, one of my favorite bands of all time, the Groundhogs. I've mentioned them time and time again on my channel. This is their 6th studio album from 1972. Real quickly, I'll go into a backstory, a little bit about this album for those who aren't familiar. The Groundhogs are probably most well known to be a British blues band. They're also equally as well known being a progressive rock band, a progressive psychedelic rock band. So they've gone through a lot of different changes throughout their career and through the different albums that they've released, which I think makes a great band. And I think what makes them great, in my opinion, because every album is something a little bit different. And through exploration and trying new things and overall development in musicianship and sounds, the different sounds that they've created and put out in their various releases, they just do such a good job. Their first couple of albums, which is kind of how I got into them, being a British blues aficionado, their first couple of albums, Scratching the Surface and Blues Obituary, well, you can tell from the name, are that British blues explosion influence British blues albums, blues rock albums to its core. So at their core, they're a British blues band. And then you start to hear, even between those two albums, you start to hear that kind of change into a more heavier, progressive sound, psychedelic even in some sense, from those first two, but you really start to hear that progressive influence in Thank Christ for the Bomb, which is my favorite Groundhogs release. A lot of people say Split is their favorite. Split is right there, almost equal with Thank Christ for the Bomb, but for sentimental reasons, because Thank Christ for the Bomb was the first Groundhogs release that I'd ever listened to. That's my favorite. But that's when you start to hear it's still true to their blue roots in that album, but start to go a little more heavier, a little more progressive. Then they get into Split. And again, that's probably their most well-known and everybody's kind of favorite Groundhogs album, if you were to ask them, where they just go heavy to the max. It's intense, it's prog, it's psychedelic, it's a little bit of everything, but it's just, I keep using the word heavy, but that's what it is. And it's done so well. It highlights the absolute genius of one of my favorite guitar players, Tony T.S. McPhee. He's up there with Rory Gallagher. He's up there with Peter Green. He's up there with those guitar greats that I love within that British blues scene. And he deserves more actually attention and credit that he gets, but that's not for this video. But go listen to him. But yeah, so Split happens, and then they actually, after Split, they tone it down into the Who Would Save the World, the Mighty Groundhogs, that comic book release. They tone it down into like almost a folky type, politically driven, lyrically, but more folky than their previous releases, so it's toned down. And then this album, their 6th album, right after that, comes right back with exploring the sound that they covered in Split. It's toned down a little bit compared to Split again, but it's ramped up from the one before this. So this was put out for Record Store Day. I picked this up a little later. Honestly, I didn't know they were coming out with this. But this is the 50th anniversary reissue remaster put out by Fire Records. The packaging is true to its original, which they've done 50th anniversary Groundhog releases before. They did the Mighty Groundhogs last Record Store Day. Before that, they did that Split Record Store Day with like the cherry red vinyl. They did the Thank Christ for the Bomb releases, which I have. So they always do a really nice job with these reissues. Why I really like them is kind of the expanded deluxe feel to them, because they usually include like that extra album of a live concert of them performing key tracks from the songs and so on, which this one does. It does have the BBC concert from 72 where they do some of these songs, and the Groundhogs live are phenomenal. Last album that I picked up, an album that I have been meaning to add to the collection. I say that a lot, but it's a never-ending rabbit hole with record collecting, and then you mean to add something, you forget about it, and then you realize, oh my goodness, watching a documentary, I need that album. Dennis Wilson, Pacific Ocean Blue, stone cold classic. Everybody loves this album. 1977, Dennis Wilson coming to it into his own, away from the shadows of his brothers, especially Brian, and being a beach boy, and really showing himself off as an amazing singer, songwriter, producer, arranger in his own right. This is a beautiful album put out by Dennis Wilson. I got the music on vinyl release, which of course sounds amazing, and I remembered that I needed to get this album. I recently watched Long Promised Road, that new Brian Wilson documentary that came out, I think sometime last year, and which is a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. There's nothing in there I thought that was anything new, like in terms of new information about Brian and his life. I don't think there was really anything new in there, but they do a really nice job, and he has great discussions. I forgot the name of the guy and the director who was doing it, but long story short, Long Promised Road, great documentary. But it's cool because Brian does sit down and listen to parts of this album, so it's cool to kind of listen to him and watch him listen to Dennis's album, so and enjoy it. I love it. With that, everybody, I hope that all of you are doing well, and I will see you guys for my next video. Bye, guys.